Here we have a Dutch Mannlicher model 1895 number 5 carbine. The Dutch model 1895 rifles and carbines are an interesting group of guns. The Dutch really didn't produce or have an awful lot of them, and when it comes to carbines on this particular model, there are a ton of variations. They were numbered 1 through 4, the carbines, and also there are old models and new models. There were police carbines, weapons that were issued to the Dutch East Indies, which was their colonial forces, have their own group of variations. And we come down to the number 5. And what the number 5 is, prior to World War II, the Dutch were preparing for war, and they realized that the full-size rifles are very cumbersome for their anti-aircraft crews, and they were trying to mechanize their infantry. So as a stopgap measure, because it was difficult for them to contract out for weapons, they cut down rifles into a carbine, and that's what this particular model, the number 5, is. At one time it was a rifle. It's marked on the receiver Hamburg 1915, but there's a stock cartouche that I believe is 38 or 39 on the stock, and we'll go over the little telltale signs of how you know that this is a cut down rifle from a carbine. And another thing is, I was looking through my reference books, and this is one style of upper handguard with this cut down rifle, and they have a picture of another with a longer style handguard. So there are a lot of little variations in that you'll find in these guns. And basically the two guns, the rifle and the carbine, the action and the sights are all the same. The variation comes in the stock configuration and position of the sling swivels, and 1 or 2 models of the carbine have the slings on the left hand side to be slung over like a cavalry model, and it'll actually have a wooden cover on the other side of this magazine, so the metal's covered up with a wooden protector, I guess, to protect the soldier's clothing while he carried the rifle. So the carbines can be an interesting field to collect. There are a lot of variations. It could be a daunting task. They're an interesting little gun, and I I did some work with the rifle, and I'd like to see how my ammunition compares with the carbine. So we'll take a closer look at this, and I also got my rifle out. We'll kind of compare it side by side and show you the different features of this particular number 5 carbine. Alright, here we'll take a look at the action. The M95 action was developed by Steyr. It's either the Dutch or Romanian, which are very similar, and they are both very similar to the German 88 Commission rifle, the bolt and that there. So it's got your split bridge, your standard split bridge action. You have a little release button here, very, very similar to the 88 Commission rifle, which you push this in and your bolt will come out. Maybe. Hold on. Alright, we got it. Yep, push this down and out comes the bolt. The bolt head is different on the Dutch rifle. It's a separate piece. I think it's detachable too. I haven't taken one of these apart. But the body and the safety and cocking piece very similar to the 88. And like I said, split bridge action, which was standard for a lot of those old guns at that time. This only has a 2-position safety, which is, you know, off and all the way over is on. In this particular model, my other gun doesn't have this. I guess that's safe written on there. So, very much like the German 88 action. So we'll decock this. Now, we'll take a look at the different markings. Alright, as we see, this has an original date, Hamburg 1915. And that's when the gun was originally manufactured. But if we go down, the Dutch always would place this cartouche on the stock. And it has a date of 1939. That is probably the year that this was converted into a carbine. And then after it was re-arsenaled, remarked. Stock has some patches in it. They may have moved the sling swivel position. And then also this handguard has a flat spot on it, much like the rifle. The conversion consisted of shortening the barrel, replacing the rifle sights with carbine sights, one barrel band and sling, and then replacing the front sight. And like I said, and another telltale sign, which somebody pointed out to me, an actual carbine, this finger grooves would go to where it's almost flush with the magazine, where this has a gap, this gap here. And someone said that's one way of telling you have a cut-down rifle. Now I'll go and get the long rifle and we'll compare them side by side. Alright, we have them here together. And first thing you'd notice is, you know, the sights are different. Rifle sights are different than the carbine sights. But also if you look, that weird flat shape of the handguard is also here. And if we put them side by side, you can see where they cut it back. Now this rifle, the unusual thing about it, this is a Dutch East Indies rifle. This had a little bit different handguard. That's why this groove is cut out and goes up 90 degrees. Someone pointed that out to me. It's a little bit different. Yeah. So this might not be a typical example of a cut down gun. This is a KNIL gun rifle. But that's basically what they did with this. And like I said, you can find examples where the handguard will be longer on a number 5. Where this one is short. And that's about it compared to the rifles. As you can see, the length, by cutting it down, been shortened considerably, making it a handier weapon. And yes, you could see where the full-size rifle sling swivel was here, and this has been patched up and then moved downward from the original position. And so that's about it.